The 7 habits no one sees from Japanese fishermen. To stay slim, eating whatever you want. Marcus stood in his kitchen at 11:47 p.m., the refrigerator door open, its harsh light carving shadows across his face. He'd eaten dinner 3 hours ago. Grilled chicken, steamed broccoli, measured portions, but hunger gnawed at him anyway. Or was it hunger? He couldn't tell anymore. His hand reached for the leftover pizza his roommate had brought home, and he stopped himself, closing his eyes against the familiar wave of shame. At 32, Marcus had tried everything: keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, calorie-counting apps that pinged him every time he logged a meal. He'd lost weight before, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, only to gain it back within months, his body seemingly programmed to return to the same stubborn baseline. His doctor had started using words like pre-diabetic and metabolic syndrome at his last checkup. The lab results sat folded in his wallet, a reminder he both needed and resented. He worked as a graphic designer at a tech startup, which meant sitting for 9 hours a day under fluorescent lights, his posture slowly collapsing as the afternoon wore on. His Apple Watch buzzed periodically, urging him to stand, to move, to close his activity rings. He rarely did. By the time he got home, his body felt like a stone, heavy and immovable. The gym membership he'd bought in January had been used exactly 4 times. It was now June. Marcus closed the refrigerator and filled a glass with water instead, the ice cubes cracking as cold liquid rushed over them. He scrolled through his phone, landing on a documentary about Japanese fishermen that a colleague had recommended. "You won't believe how they eat," she'd said. "They eat like everything: rice, fried food, huge portions, and they're all lean." On screen, the camera followed an older fisherman named Takeshi through his pre-dawn routine. The man moved with quiet efficiency, his weathered hands pulling nets from dark water, his breath visible in the cold coastal air. He was 63, the narrator explained, and ate 3 large meals a day: white rice, tempura, fatty mackerel, miso soup thick with tofu and seaweed. No counting, no restriction, no gym. Marcus paused the video. Takeshi's body, visible in a brief shirtless scene as he changed into dry clothes, showed lean muscle and a flat abdomen that Marcus hadn't seen on his own frame in over a decade. It didn't make sense. Everything Marcus had learned about weight loss said you had to eat less and move more, preferably in a sweaty, painful hour at the gym. Yet here was a man eating freely, working physically but not exercising, and aging without the soft middle that seemed inevitable for men in their 60s. The next morning, Marcus woke to his alarm at 6:30 a.m. after 7 hours of sleep. He should have felt rested. Instead, exhaustion clung to him like wet fabric. His mind felt foggy, his body stiff. He reached for his phone before his feet hit the floor, scrolling through emails and news and social media, his nervous system jolting awake before his body had a chance to ease into consciousness. At the office, Marcus's co-worker, Kenji, a Japanese-American engineer who'd grown up partially in Hokkaido, noticed Marcus watching the fisherman documentary during lunch. "You're watching that?" Kenji asked, leaning over. "Yeah. Trying to figure out how they stay so lean eating that much." Kenji smiled. "My uncle was a fisherman. He ate like a horse, but he was always moving, not exercise, just constant motion, pulling nets, walking the docks, balancing on the boat, and he woke up at 4 every morning, ate his biggest meal at sunrise." "That's it?" Marcus asked, skeptical. "Just moving around and eating breakfast?" "It's not just that," Kenji said quietly. "It's how they live, the whole rhythm: sleep, cold, food timing, portions. They don't think about it. It's just built into the day." Marcus felt something shift. Not quite hope, but curiosity. What if the answer wasn't more discipline, but a different structure entirely? That night, Marcus opened a small package that had arrived earlier. A gift from his grandmother before she'd passed 2 years ago. Inside was a simple object, a hand-woven fishing net, no bigger than his palm, made of dark twine. She'd bought it during a trip to a coastal village in Japan decades ago. The tag attached said it was used by fishermen to carry small catches, each knot tied with precision. He held it in his hands, feeling the weight of the tight weave. Every strand connected. Nothing slipped through. If you've ever felt tired even after a full night of sleep, or frustrated with diets that don't last, tell us in the comments which part of this story feels familiar, and stay with us for the next chapters. Marcus began researching. Not diet blogs or fitness influencers, but actual studies on Japanese fishermen, circadian biology, and metabolic health. He learned that NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, accounted for up to 1,200 calories burned per day in people who moved frequently, even without structured workouts. Fishermen like Takeshi weren't running marathons. They were bending, lifting, walking, balancing, constantly shifting their weight in small, natural movements. Marcus's daily step count averaged 3,200. Takeshi's was estimated at over 12,000 before breakfast. The second discovery came from chronobiology research. Studies showed that eating the largest meal early in the morning, when cortisol and insulin sensitivity were naturally high, led to 30% better glucose processing than identical meals eaten at night. Fishermen ate massively at dawn, grilled fish, rice, miso soup, and lightly at dinner. Marcus ate a granola bar at his desk around 9 a.m. and his biggest meal at 8 p.m. Right before collapsing on the couch. His rhythm was backwards. On Saturday morning, Marcus set his alarm for 5 a.m. The city was still dark, quiet, except for distant traffic. He felt ridiculous standing in his small apartment kitchen, cooking eggs and rice at an hour he usually reserved for sleep. But he ate slowly, chewing each bite, the warm food settling into his stomach with surprising satisfaction. By 7 a.m., and he felt alert in a way that coffee never quite delivered, a calm, sustained energy. He walked to a nearby park, not to exercise, but just to move. The morning air was cool. His breath came easy. He watched an older Asian man practicing Tai Chi under a tree, each movement slow and deliberate, and felt a strange envy for the man's composure. Marcus's friend David texted him around 10 a.m. Brunch? Marcus hesitated. He'd already eaten. His body felt content. But saying no to David meant explaining, and explaining meant sounding weird. Can't, he typed back. Already ate. At 10 a.m. Bro, it's Saturday. I know. Just trying something new. David sent back a laughing emoji and a gif of someone eating a salad sadly. Marcus put his phone down, irritation flickering. Why was it strange to eat when his body was actually ready for fuel? Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus made small adjustments. He started showering with cold water for the last 30 seconds, gasping as icy streams hit his skin. He'd read that fishermen's constant exposure to cold water activated brown adipose tissue, metabolically active fat that burned calories to generate heat. It felt miserable at first, then strangely invigorating. He also changed what he ate first. Every morning, he prioritized protein, eggs, leftover fish, sometimes canned sardines, before touching carbs. Research showed that 30-40 grams of protein at breakfast triggered GLP-1 and peptide YY, hormones that suppressed appetite for hours. Marcus noticed he wasn't ravenous by 11 a.m. anymore. The frantic hunger that used to drive him to the vending machine had quieted. Kenji noticed the changes at work. "You're eating fish for breakfast now?" he asked, watching Marcus open a container of grilled mackerel and rice. "Trying to. Feels weird, but I'm not starving by lunch." "My uncle used to say the first meal sets the day," Kenji said. "If you start with sugar, you chase it all day. If you start with protein and rice, you're steady." Marcus nodded, chewing slowly. "Did he ever, count calories?" Kenji laughed. "No, he just ate what was in front of him, but the portions were different. Small bowls. Lots of variety. You eat slower when there's more to try." That night, Marcus tried something new. Instead of piling food onto one large plate, he used small bowls, rice in one, vegetables in another, a bit of salmon in a third. It looked like more food, but when he finished, he realized he'd eaten less, and he felt satisfied. The small fishing net sat on his shelf, a quiet reminder. Structure, consistency, nothing falls through. By the fourth week, Marcus noticed changes, subtle but undeniable. His jeans felt looser around the waist. His energy throughout the day felt more stable, no dramatic peaks and crashes. He still got tired, but it was a clean fatigue, the kind that led to actual sleep rather than restless scrolling. His sleep-tracking app showed an improvement. Deep sleep cycles had increased from 42 minutes to over an hour. He'd stopped looking at his phone in bed, leaving it in the kitchen to charge overnight. His bedroom was darker now, blackout curtains replacing the thin blinds that used to let streetlights bleed through. Fishermen, he'd learned, slept in near-total darkness, their circadian rhythms unbroken by artificial light. Deep sleep allowed growth hormone release, leptin sensitivity, and cortisol clearance. Poor sleep dysregulated ghrelin, the hunger hormone, by 28%. Marcus had been fighting hunger with willpower. He should have been fighting it with sleep. David finally confronted him at a bar on Friday night. "Dude, what's going on with you? You don't drink anymore. You're eating fish at weird hours. You're in bed by 10 p.m. Are you okay?" Marcus sipped his soda water. "I'm fine. Just trying to get healthier." "You've tried that before," David said, not unkindly. "Remember the keto thing, the CrossFit phase? You always burn out. This is different." "How?" Marcus struggled to explain. "It's not about forcing myself. It's about changing the environment, the rhythm. Like, I'm not trying to have willpower at midnight. I'm just asleep. I'm not trying to avoid junk food. I'm just full from breakfast." David stared at him. "That sounds like a cult." Marcus laughed despite himself. "It's Japanese fishermen, man. Not a cult." "Same energy," David muttered, but there was something in his eyes. Not mockery, but unease. Maybe even envy. The following Monday, Marcus had a follow-up appointment with his doctor, Dr. Patel. She pulled up his labs from 3 months ago and compared them to the new results. "Your fasting glucose dropped from 108 to 96, she said slowly. "Your triglycerides are down. HDL is up. What did you change?" "I'm eating breakfast earlier, sleeping better, moving more during the day. Cold showers." Dr. Patel blinked. "Cold showers? It's a thing Japanese fishermen do, well, not on purpose, but—" "Marcus," she interrupted gently, "I don't care if it's fishermen or monks or whoever. Your numbers are improving. Keep doing it." He left the clinic feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Validation, not from a scale, from his actual biology. Would you rather force yourself with willpower, or redesign your environment and habits like this character is learning to do? Comment which path makes more sense to you, and share this episode with someone who needs a gentler approach to change. 2 months in, Marcus hit his first real test. His company announced a product launch that required late nights, tight deadlines, and catered dinners. Pizza, Chinese takeout, sandwiches delivered at 9 p.m. The old Marcus would have eaten it all, stayed up until 2 a.m. and crashed into bed, wired and exhausted. But something had shifted. His body had learned a different rhythm, and breaking it felt wrong. Not morally wrong, but physically uncomfortable, like trying to sleep in wet clothes. On the first late night, Marcus ate a small portion of the catered meal, then walked around the block for 10 minutes before returning to his desk. His co-workers teased him. "Taking a stroll?" one asked. "It's 10 p.m., dude." "Just needed air," Marcus said simply. He noticed Kenji doing something similar, eating lightly, moving periodically, staying hydrated. At 11:30 p.m., Kenji stood and stretched. "I'm out," he said. "I'll finish in the morning." "We're supposed to stay until it's done," someone protested. "I'll be sharper at 6 a.m. than I am now," Kenji replied calmly. "So will you." Marcus left with him. Outside, the city hummed with traffic and neon. Kenji lit a cigarette, a habit Marcus knew he was trying to quit, and exhaled slowly. "You're doing the fisherman thing, aren't you?" Kenji said. "How'd you know? You walk different now, like you're not rushing, and you eat slow." Marcus smiled. "Your uncle teach you that?" "He taught me that discipline isn't about suffering, it's about structure. You build the day right, the day builds you." They stood in silence, watching cars pass. Marcus thought about the fishing net on his shelf, the tight weave, the way every knot held. Over the next few weeks, the late nights continued, but Marcus held his boundaries. He ate early and lightly at night. He slept in complete darkness. He woke early, even on weekends, and moved throughout the day, not exercising, just existing in motion. His co-workers noticed. "You look different," one said. "Did you lose weight?" "Some," Marcus admitted. "What's your secret?" He hesitated. How could he explain that there was no secret, just small, invisible habits repeated so often they'd become automatic? That the real transformation wasn't his body, but his relationship with it. "I just started living like a Japanese fisherman," he said with a shrug. They laughed, thinking he was joking. He let them. 3 months in, Marcus woke at 5 a.m. without an alarm. His body knew. The room was dark, silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator in the next room. He lay still for a moment, noticing something strange. He felt rested. Truly rested, not the groggy, reluctant waking he'd known for years, but a calm readiness. He thought about Takeshi, the fisherman from the documentary. Takeshi didn't optimize his sleep or track his REM cycles. He simply went to bed when the sun set and woke when it rose. His body existed inside a rhythm, not in opposition to one. Marcus got up, folded the blanket on his bed, a small ritual he'd adopted from reading about Japanese homes, and went to the kitchen. He made rice, grilled a piece of salmon, and sat at the table with his phone in another room. He chewed slowly, tasting the salt and fat and char. He felt the warmth of the food spreading through his chest. This was the secret, he realized. Not one habit, but the architecture of many habits stacked so tightly that they became a structure, like the fishing net. Every strand mattered: movement, meal timing, cold exposure, protein first, sleep in darkness, eating with presence. It wasn't about perfection, it was about consistency. He'd spent years thinking the problem was his lack of willpower, that he just needed to try harder, resist more, suffer better. But willpower was finite. Environment was infinite. The fishermen didn't resist temptation. They lived in a world where temptation was irrelevant. They woke early because their work required it. They moved constantly because the boat demanded it. They ate well because fresh fish was what they had. Marcus had been trying to fight his environment. What he needed to do was redesign it. That afternoon, he met with Dr. Patel again. She reviewed his latest labs and leaned back in her chair. "Your A1C is normal now," she said, "completely out of the pre-diabetic range. Your weight is down 18 pounds. Blood pressure is excellent. Whatever you're doing, it's working." Marcus nodded. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt quiet, steady. "I'm not doing anything extreme," he said. "I'm just living differently." "That's the only thing that lasts," Dr. Patel replied. That night, David texted, "Drinks tomorrow?" Marcus thought about it. He could go, have one drink, stay out late, break the rhythm. The old Marcus would have said yes, out of obligation, out of fear of seeming weird. But the new Marcus, the one who woke at dawn and ate with presence and moved through the day like water, knew better. "Can't," he typed. "Early morning plans. Rain check." David sent back a thumbs up. No judgment, no laughter, just acceptance. Marcus sat on his couch, holding the small fishing net his grandmother had given him. He thought about Takeshi, pulling nets from cold water at 63, eating rice without guilt, sleeping deeply without pills. He thought about his own body, how it had softened, how it had started to respond. The secret wasn't hidden. It was just invisible to people looking for shortcuts. 6 months later, Marcus sat in a different body. Not a perfect one. He still had a slight softness around his middle, still had days where exhaustion crept in, but a body that felt like his. He'd lost 24 pounds. His resting heart rate had dropped from 78 to 62. His sleep was deep and dreamless. His mind felt clear in a way it hadn't since his early 20s. But the real change was subtler. He no longer fought himself. He no longer woke up at war with his appetite, his energy, his discipline. The habits had become so embedded that they felt like breathing. He didn't decide to wake early, he just did. He didn't resist late-night snacking, he simply wasn't hungry. Kenji noticed at work one day. "You move like my uncle now," he said, smiling. "Steady, no rush." "I feel steady," Marcus admitted, "for the first time in years." "That's the real transformation," Kenji said. "Not the weight, the stillness inside." David, surprisingly, had started asking questions. At first, it was sarcastic. "So, are you a full monk now?" But gradually, genuine curiosity emerged. "Do you ever eat junk food?" David asked one day. "Sometimes," Marcus said, "but I eat it at breakfast, and I eat it slow. It doesn't hit the same when you're actually paying attention." "That sounds miserable," Marcus shrugged. "It's just different. I'm not depriving myself, I'm just present." A year later, Marcus stood in his kitchen at dawn, the small fishing net hanging on the wall above the table. He cooked rice, grilled mackerel, prepared miso soup. The movements were automatic now, muscle memory. He ate slowly, alone but not lonely, watching soft light filter through the window. His phone buzzed with a message from David. "Started waking up earlier. Trying that breakfast thing. Feels weird but kinda good?" Marcus smiled. He didn't reply immediately. He finished his meal, washed his dishes, and folded his kitchen towel. Then he wrote back, "Give it a month. Let your body learn the rhythm." He thought about Takeshi again, pulling nets at 63, eating freely, staying lean without obsession. The secret had never been a secret. It was just a life designed around biology instead of against it. Small habits, tight weave, nothing falling through. Marcus walked to the mirror and looked at himself, not with judgment or criticism, but with quiet recognition. This was who he was now, someone who honored his body's rhythms, someone who ate with presence, someone who moved not to punish, but to exist fully. The fishing net hung behind him in the reflection, each knot perfectly tied. He turned away from the mirror and walked toward the door. The city was waking. He had work to do. But first, a walk. Not exercise. Just movement, just being. The rhythm continued. If this story reminded you that real transformation comes from small habits repeated over time, not from overnight fixes, subscribe to the channel, tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to start this journey with you in the next story.